So welcome again, everyone, to today's session. Like I said, we're going to talk about how to become more productive, something that we all want to incorporate into our lives and our businesses. So really excited to get into that content. I do want to just go over a few things. Obviously, we are recording today's session. I will send out a link to the recording later on this week, so you can access all this content. Don't feel like you need to scramble for notes if that's you. We also always upload our recordings to the video library and on our website. So another great place you can always access our free webinars. We also love for these to be interactive, so feel free to put questions into the chat. We'll see, maybe at the end we might have time for some Q&A, but definitely want your questions to be answered that way. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the SBDC, we are the North Metro Denver Small Business Development Center. We offer free one-on-one consulting with our business advisors, as well as these free educational offerings. We do a bunch of webinars on different topics, as well as some online courses. So we'd love to help you in your business. If you are looking to get some guidance or have questions, wherever you might be, whatever stage of business you're at, we're here to help you. I think those are, I will turn on the closed captioning in a minute as well, if you need access to that. And if there's anything else you need throughout the session today, pop it in the chat or let me know however is best for you. And with that, I want to introduce Nicole Baker. She's our speaker for today and coach for perfectionists. We're so excited to have her with us and just really ready to learn from her. So Nicole, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Hannah. Alrighty, I am a very interactive speaker, so if you all don't mind having that chat pulled open so you guys can type in some responses and stuff like that as we go through the chat, as we go through the presentation, that would be greatly appreciated. But we are here to talk about secrets to healthy productivity that you cannot afford to miss. Why do you all think that I underlined the word healthy? And I'd love to hear either by going off mute or going in the chat, why did I underline the word healthy? I'll give you all a minute. I see Linda typing. Why did I underline the word healthy? Healthy indicates a whole person, not just a, ooh, good answer, Linda. I love it. Yes. The reason I underline the word healthy is because so often we hear the word productivity, and we are a culture that is heavily influenced by hustle culture. Who here has answered the question, how are you doing, with, I'm so busy? We've all been there, or at least most of us high achievers, we say, oh, I'm so stressed. I'm so busy. I'm so stressed, right? So when it comes to healthy productivity, it's really detaching itself from that hustle culture mindset. And that can be kind of hard for us to wrap our mind around, which is what we're going to dive into today. So let's start with a good old-fashioned, does this sound like you? Go ahead and pop in the chat. Oh, I'm so busy. I like the so, Linda, it's so real. So has anyone been in any of these scenarios? You feel like no matter how hard you work, you're always falling behind. I think about this person is the person who's laying in bed at night. You had maybe a really busy day. You're exhausted. And yet you're sitting there staring at the ceiling being like, well, I didn't get this off my to-do list. I didn't get that done. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Yes, every day. Beautiful. You also, this is number 2, you feel like you're always putting more on your to-do list. It's this never-ending scroll. And yet you're beating yourself up always for not getting it done. Who's been here? You can either raise your hand or put it in the chat. Yes. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, up till 2:30 this morning. Linda. So another one, you feel like if you're not stressed or exhausted by the end of the day, then you're not doing enough. I used to feel like if I wasn't literally crawling into my bed at night, then I didn't give that day my all, or I clearly don't care about my goals enough. And wow, was that an unsustainable practice? We'll talk about that more. Number 4, you feel like your days are frantic. You're trying to do it all. Maybe you're multitasking. Maybe you're multitasking while watching this webinar. Who's done this? Let me know in the chat. Guilty. I see you all with your cameras off. I know you. Number 5, you feel like if you rest, then you're lazy. Who has been resting or has thought about resting and then said, ooh, I can't do that. There's something more productive. Guilt storm. I should feel bad for taking care of myself. I work with perfectionists and people pleasers. I see this one all the time. Rest question mark. Oh no, we're going to talk about that today. And last but not least, you feel like you could have more freedom if you only had a structure in place, but you have no idea what that structure looks like or how to start it. If any of these 6 sound like you, then welcome, you're in the right place. Or even if just one of them sounds like you. So let's start off with just asking ourselves, what is the problem here? Why are we a society that is so actually addicted to being busy? I don't have this in my slides, but I've been studying busyness for about a little under a year now. And one of the things that I find fascinating about busyness in the brain is that it is so highly addictive that busyness actually lights up the same areas of our brain. It releases the same neurotransmitters as an addiction to methamphetamine. I saw this study and I was like, oh my God. But it's no surprise that we live in this world that is just frantically busy. And there are 2 types. There's a lot of types in that, but there's 2 umbrella types of productivity in this world. And they are, number 1, the go-go-goer. This is probably the person who is always looking at what they have not done yet. Remember laying in bed, staring at the ceiling and being like, oh my gosh, well, I haven't done this. Well, I haven't done this. These also tend to be the people who say, when I achieve that goal, when I make that amount of money, then I will finally be happy. Only to reach that level of success or reach the end of that goal and say, nope, never mind, it's the next one. It's the next level. That thing's actually going to make me happy. They're also consistently asking, what's next? What's next? Rarely celebrating themselves. When they hit that level of success, they're like, I'm good for 5 minutes. Good job, me. But it'll squeak. It's that next one. It's actually that next one I need to achieve. They also believe that if they stop for even a moment, they will be considered lazy or mediocre. I see this so often with people who are that high achiever type that say, well, if I rest or if I prioritize self-care, then I'm going to become complacent. I'm going to become mediocre. And it's this huge fear. Or I'll be seen as lazy. I hear that one a lot too. They also tackle their to-do list with the urgency of a house fire. They're multitasking. They're trying to do as many things as possible. Their shoulders are like up to here. And yet they still beat themselves up for not getting everything done. Who is the go-go-goer in this chat? Let me know either in the chat or by raising your hand. Who is the go-go-goer type? I used to be hard. Used to be absolutely this person. Go-go-goer. Yes, Linda, beautiful. So this is what, sorry about that little weird blub. This is what we're taught to look at success. This is how we're taught. This is what success is looking like at this world. I don't have this on here, unfortunately, but actually over Christmas break, I was with my fiance at my future in-laws house, and he was looking at Twitter, and he stops and he slides his phone over the table to me, and I start looking at what he sent me. And it was a tweet by someone who said, if you don't work nights and weekends in your 20s, you're never going to have a successful career. I'm going to say that again because I kind of flubbed it. If you do not work nights and weekends in your 20s, then you'll never have a successful career. He and I looked at each other and we're like, nope. We're like, we do not subscribe to that anymore, but we used to because we were the go-go-goers for a long time. And this person who tweeted, go-go-goer, my goodness. Then type 2 is the productivity master. They finish their days feeling proud of what they accomplished. Note, they're looking at what they did accomplish, not what they didn't. They're not staring at the ceiling thinking about all the things that they didn't do. They're thinking about the things that they did. They know that resting is incredibly important for the human body, soul, and mind, and they do it guilt-free. They accomplish big tasks with ease and a sense of peace. Yes, it is possible. And they know that they can take things one step at a time. No multitasking where your shoulders are like up to here. They know that they can end their days with energy left over. That like blew my mind when I first learned that. And they have hours in their week to be a human being, no, not human doing, a human being, and do more of what they love. I don't know about you all, but I like this person a lot more. And I will admit happily that I have been both of these types. I have never felt happy and successful when I was the go-go-goer. I have only felt happy and successful. Does that mean I don't have bad days? Of course I do. But my baseline is joy, love, self-acceptance. And it's a huge difference in my life. So who the heck am I? Let's start there. My name is Nicole Baker. I'm a coach for high achieving perfectionists. I help them ditch hustle culture and achieve their goals with fun, fulfillment, and way more free time. But like I've teased earlier, this is a lesson that I had to learn when I was literally in my total rock bottom. So I was a huge addiction to busy person. I was burning myself out, constantly trying to do all the things. I was waking up Monday morning feeling stressed already by my huge to-do list for the week. I refused to rest because I thought people would think I'm lazy. And so I never did it. And I would be riddled with guilt if I was sick or something like that, and I had to rest. My to-do list felt like it was literally taking over my life. I had no energy to spend on the things that I actually enjoyed doing. And I was even out of college. Our abbreviations were OCU. The college joke was it was overcommitted university. And finally, I hit my breaking point. I was at school. I was getting sick every other week. I was a musical theater major. And I'm not talking about sick like cough. I'm talking like my tonsils were swollen out past my neck. I was a musical theater major. This did not bode well for a third of my degree, which was singing. I would drink myself to blackout every single weekend just to numb my feelings of stress and anxiety. That is something I am not proud of, but it is part of my story. I was having weekly panic attacks, probably not helped by the alcohol and the getting sick every other week. I was coming home at night with barely enough energy to crawl into bed. And as a result, my professor finally sat me down and said, because of what you are doing, how you are treating your body, how you are stressed and anxious, and I didn't realize it at the time, but super perfectionism, you are not going to be able to graduate from this program. Now, I am a high achiever. I got into one of the top musical theater colleges in America. This was my dream, to go to Broadway, to do all the things. And it was being just ripped out from under me by my own self-sabotaging. So I'm very fortunate to have grown up in a family who both my parents worked in personal development. They worked for Tony Robbins for many, many, many years. My dad is an extremely good life coach. And I called him and I said, my dream is on the line. I've learned all of this like state change, this, how to be happy, this, your mind is more powerful than your actions, blah, 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 blah. I've learned that my whole life. How do I implement it? Because I need to do so now or else my dream is gone. And thank God that man coached me for a year and a half. And long story short, I did end up graduating cum laude. I still have a little bit of that high achiever in me. But what was amazing, and by the way, I'm now actually asked back to this university to give workshops on perfectionism. It's amazing, that full circle. But what was amazing to me is I learned the power of the mind, because my strategy didn't change, my talent didn't change. What changed was up here. I started believing in myself. I stopped trying to shove my entire to-do list into every spare 5 minutes. I stopped trying to be the busiest person in the room. And everything in my life changed. So as a result, it was just a slap in the face I needed. And a few years later, I dove into research around productivity, success, and happiness. Note that those three go together. I was not interested in just productivity. I was not interested in just success. I wanted productivity, success, and happiness. Because if I was productive and successful but not happy, what was the point? So I read books, I listened to TED Talks, I listened to podcasts, I absorbed any and every class under the sun around productivity, success, and happiness. And here's what I found. None of them involved being busy. None of them, not a single one was like, you need to be busy all the time. All of them were about cutting. Look at even this top left it says, boost your results, reduce your hours. The 4-hour work week. I don't know, that sounds pretty good to me. So one of my favorite authors, actually the author of the 4-hour work week, has a famous quote, and it is, if I'm too busy, I know I'm doing something wrong. This is a multimillionaire entrepreneur. He is an angel investor in Silicon Valley, not known for their productivity in Silicon Valley. He is the author of the 4-hour work week and my favorite book of all time, Tools of Titans. I live by this quote now. If I am too busy, I am doing something wrong, and I know I need to go into my schedule and figure some stuff out. So now, if we're doing like a little before and after, now I finish most of my work days before 3 p.m. I have hours more to spend with my family, my fiance, and doing things that I love. You know what I else am doing now? Wedding planning. You know what's great to do in 3 hours that I have now like 10, 15 more hours to do in my week? I'm now not stressed. I have not felt stressed a single time in my entirety of wedding planning. I've never met another bride who can say that. I've completely changed my relationship with rest. I now achieve professional and personal goals quicker with way more fun. Note the word fun. A lot of us high achievers don't use that word very much. I now have a lot of fun with my goals. And I've actually even coined the term productivity master from a lot of my clients, which is like, oh, it feels good. So basically, I broke my busyness addiction. Something I didn't include, my business doubles every year, if not more. A lot of high achievers think that if they sacrifice working 24 hours, then their goals aren't going to happen fast enough. Bull. It actually is the opposite. So for time's sake, we're going to go straight in. What are these 3 secrets to healthy productivity? Number 1, prime hours. I want to ask you in the chat, what are prime hours? Or you can go off mute if you would like. What do you think prime hours are? What are prime hours? What are prime hours? See a few people typing. Beautiful. Thank you guys for playing full out. When we are most productive, Sheila, yes, beautiful, absolutely. When you're most alert, when your energy is the highest, boom, 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 absolutely. It is a set of 3 to 4 hours when we are the most clear, focused, and we are ready to take action. You all put it perfectly. Our energy is higher. We are most alert. By the way, when our energy is higher and we're most alert, we're also most likely to get the heck out of our comfort zone, which for a lot of us, especially as entrepreneurs, whole buddy, we need that superpower. But here's the problem. So many of us are spending our prime hours on our phones. Most of us have our prime hours first thing in the morning, or at least an hour first thing in the morning. I talk to a lot of people, does not matter the age, by the way, who their phone alarm goes off and they scroll. And that's how they spend their prime hours, on TikTok. And it drives me crazy. They're also getting easily distracted. They're doing their to-do list because it's easy and comfortable and it doesn't require getting out of your comfort zone, or you're hitting the snooze button. So many of us are using these prime hours playing small, if we're having to boil it down. So why is this so important for us to know for productivity? If you knew when your most valuable time was for you to get the bigger, more focused, heavy projects done, oh buddy, we might as well call ourselves Superman. This is a game changer technique, because riddle me this. When was the last time that you had a to-do list item or a project, or maybe you're doing a launch for a new service or a new thing in your business, and you felt overwhelmed, and so you kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off? If we know when our prime hours are, we know when we can work on these bigger, more scarier, out of our comfort zone tasks. I cannot stress this enough. That is why prime hours are so powerful. So I want you guys to see this in action, not just hear me talk about it. This was about 3 years ago, when I was starting my podcast, it was about a year in, I realized how much I enjoyed podcasting. I thought it was so much fun. It was one of my favorite parts of my business. And I knew that I wanted to start getting on other people's podcasts. I wanted to start getting my message out there. I wanted to start reaching new audiences. And I wanted to have conversations and talk to other entrepreneurs, because we all know entrepreneurship can be a really lonely island. So I asked myself, how does one get on podcasts? You obviously have to be Instagram famous, and that's how you get on podcasts. Of course, Nicole. So what did I do for 2 weeks? I sprinted on Instagram. I posted as much as possible. I interacted as much as possible. I was gunning for 10K because for whatever reason, that to me was like, you've made it in 10K. Again, this is 3 years ago. I'm not proud, but man, it's like so funny in hindsight, but at the time it was not my proudest moment. I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I was stressed. And by the way, I don't even like the app most of the time. And so I asked myself, I was like, okay, is there a better way to do this? There must be a more direct line to get on these shows that I want to be on. And then of course it hit me. Nicole, send them an email. Ricola, like absolutely, like bestowed down upon the heavens. But I was so blown away by this idea. But then immediately I was like, well, what if they say no? What if they deny you? What if they think you don't have enough to say? What if they think you aren't good enough? Of course, all those fears of rejection started going through my head. And at the same time, I was learning about prime hours. And I said, okay, my prime hours at this time were like 6 to 9 a.m. I'm an early prime hours person. And I was like, okay, what if I spend one of those hours, like 6 to 7, just reaching out to 10 podcasts and saying, hi, my name is Nicole Baker. I'm a coach for perfectionists. I'd love to come on your show and talk about the 3 different types of perfectionism and how it might be self-sabotaging your business, self-sabotaging your marriage, self-sabotaging you in dating, all these different things. And what amazed me is that in under a year, I was on 60 podcasts, 60, and I never once felt burnt out. It was so much joy. I loved it. So trying to gun it on Instagram was not really working for me. Doing that direct outreach and using those prime hours because I knew I was scared, I knew I was out of my comfort zone, got me on 60 podcasts. By the way, I've now reached over 5, I think it might even be 6 million people because of this. It is no joke. So I want you all to do exercises with me in this workshop because me just talking at you is going to do diddly squat. So I want you guys to ask yourself, what are your prime hours? You can drop them in the chat or you can write them down on a sheet of paper. But what are your prime hours? And if you don't know, take your best guess or even try a few different ones out throughout the week. But what do you think your prime hours are? I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. What do you think? 6:30 to 11:30 a.m. Beautiful, Linda. Awesome. 11 to 2. Awesome, Val. Beautiful. 3 to 5, 7 to 11. And I want you guys to note, none of these are the same. That is why personal development is personal. Everyone's are going to look different. Beautiful. Not sure, probably morning. Awesome. 3 to 7. Nice. You guys, you're nailing this. Absolutely. It is never the same hours for 2 people, for 3 people, for however many are on this call. It is never going to be the same hours because we are so unique. Awesome, guys. Number 2, you are not a computer. No, duh, Nicole, but let's talk about why. How many times has this happened to you? You're like totally in the zone. You're working on a project. You're writing some emails for your email sequence or whatever it is. And everything feels fun and easy and creative. And then everything starts going off. Your email, your text messages, your watch, because apparently we now wear technology and I am not alone here. We always are getting distracted because we're always reachable. So when this happens, when we're in that easy state, this is called flow state, by the way. When we are in that flow state, things are just like flowing out of us. And a ding happens, even as simple as an email coming across the top of your computer. You know how like Apple Macs, you know how Apples do that? It takes us on average 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back into that flow state. 23 minutes and 15 seconds. And guess what? We don't have the patience for that anymore. We say, ooh, 23 minutes, you know, it's been 10. I'm feeling motivated today. I'll do it tomorrow when I have more energy. Or we'll see that email come across and we'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to check that other email. And then it sends us down this huge rabbit hole. So we are not a computer. We cannot run 2 different programs at the same time. Said differently, we are not multitaskers. In order for us to be in that flow state, we have to honor the fact that those little dings, those little dongs, those little vibrates, they cannot interrupt that. So I got off because I went off on this. So computers are built to multitask. Humans are not, but toxic productivity says that if you're not working on 500 things at once, you're going to fall behind. That multitasking bug. I used to work for a tech company in Chicago. And as a result, we'd be in a meeting and I'd be working on emails. I'd also be working on posts. I'd also be ordering water for the office. I'd be doing all these different things all at once. And I realized I didn't take a freaking breath in like 10 minutes. My shoulders were like up to here. I was so stressed out, but I felt like I had to be doing all these things at once. So I want you all, again, to see this in action. This is my client, Angie. She is a cricket influencer on YouTube. She has like 400,000 followers across her platforms. She is really good at her job. And her and I were recently talking about this like stress, this like, oh my God, I feel like, I'm trying to get something done, but then I, get distracted and then I need to move it and all this different stuff. And so I asked her, I was like, share your screen with me. I'd love to see this in action. So she was in the middle of writing a YouTube script for the week. And I look at the YouTube script and then I look at the top of her tabs. I counted 45 of them, 45 tabs. And I said, Angie, walk me through this. You're writing a YouTube script. You look up and what happens? She says, okay, well, I see a little notification on Slack and then I need to go check that. And then my assistant needs something and then I'll need to go to my email and grab that. And I see this, and then 2 hours have gone by and she's like, oh my God, I didn't write my YouTube script. You know what? I can do that tomorrow. And then the rest of her week is pushed out. She creates content like crazy. She was in up till 9 p.m. Now with no tabs because I made her promise me and she's been honoring it and I'm really proud of her. She now takes Fridays off. This is how crazy these distractions can make us. This is how productivity is really used in real time. It is using those distractions and getting them out of there. So again, back to these exercises. I want you all to write down some ways that you can start minimizing distractions for yourself. This might mean having some uncomfortable conversations. So for instance, I had a client, she was constantly checking her email. And it wasn't even that there was emails to check. She was just always worried that her boss needed her through email. And it was causing her so much stress. It was hurting her productivity. And so I asked her, I was like, okay, what if you have a conversation with your boss and say, you know what? I really need to delete email off my phone. If you need me, you have my phone number. Call me if it's an emergency. Do you know what her boss said? Okay. She didn't care. She was like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Whatever you need. It is always so much worse, this conversation that we make up in our heads. So anything you guys can think of, all of my stuff, if I'm going to give you guys another example, all of my stuff is on do not disturb. My watch, my phone, my computer, everything is on do not disturb throughout my day. Does this mean no one can reach me? No, I have a few people who can be patched through, but they know that I will not respond during the day. And they know that if they do get patched through, it's probably something a little bit more urgent. So for time's sake, we're going to go on to the third one. Becoming an 85%er, putting on blinders in the pop-up. Oh, good one, Linda. I love that. Not trying to do the butt first. Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You guys are nailing this. I'm so proud of you. So last but not least, becoming an 85%er. What does that mean, Nicole? I want you all to meet a man named Carl Lewis. This guy is a legendary, like 9-time gold medalist, legendary track and field runner in 100-meter sprints. Now, what was fascinating though, is that Carl would always start these sprints at the back of the pack, like noticeably back of the pack. And yet he would go on to win the 100-meter sprints. And coaches were bamboozled by this guy. They're like, okay, well, I'm assuming, at the last like 50 meters, he just absolutely sprints it out. And then that's how he gets ahead of everyone. No contraire. So what they did is they started doing aerial shots, aerial footage of Carl. I hope it was with his permission. I don't have that confirmed, but it's stressful for me. So they started doing aerial footage of Carl through these 100-meter sprints. And what they noticed is that what Carl did at meter 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 100, everything, same thing. He didn't change his pace. He didn't change his form. He didn't change his breath. Everything was steady and consistent. Now others, they absolutely gunned it out of the race or out of the beginning. The thing goes off, they start going. They burn out 70 meters in, and then they go like 50% those last 30 meters But what Carl did is he continued at 85% the entire way through. And what they noticed is that he was relaxed. How wonderful to be a 9-time Olympic freaking gold medalist and be relaxed in your signature race. He was a master at what this is called the 85% rule. So this is not just for running though. If you are going after your goals or going after your to-do list or going after your day at 100% energy, you are going to burn out so fast versus going at 85% energy, because that's where we have room for relaxation, for breathing, for fun. High achievers, go figure. Who won this race? Tell me in the chat. Who won this race? Who won this race? The tortoise or the hare? Let me know in the chat. Grab a sip of water. Tortoise, absolutely. The tortoise won this race. But so many of us are going through our days like the hare, going 1,000 miles a minute, getting easily distracted. Whereas the tortoise is steady, slow, 1 foot in front of the other, took him to the finish line before. So I want you all to ask yourself, I'm gonna digress for 1 second. I've had someone ask me this before, why is this needed for productivity? And the answer is, why are we working so hard for this life and not enjoying the absolute daylights out of it? So many of us on this call are high achievers. We're entrepreneurs. We're people who strive for more and excellence. And that's a beautiful thing. But if we do that from a place of, it's never enough, we're making ourselves miserable. And my job as coach is not just to teach you strategy to make your schedule easier and yada, yada, yada. It's to help you match it with up here. Because if up here, if we're talking ourselves down, if we're stressing ourselves out, if we're constantly looking at what we haven't achieved yet, it does not matter what level of life we achieve, it will still be the same. So I want you all to ask yourself, where do you need more of this 85% attitude? Where do you need to chill and have more fun, if we're going to say it differently? Or where do you need to push less, breathe more, and allow more space to enjoy? Trying to get all the tasks done, what to do now. Yes, that urgency of now is huge. I need to breathe, give myself emotional and physical space. Beautiful. An example that I did for a while was on my to-do list. There we go. On my to-do list, I realized that anytime, by the way, I don't do to-do lists anymore. They were not helping me be the person I want to be. And I'll explain that more in a second. But when I realized I was going after my to-do list, it was that urgency of a house fire. It was, how many things can I do immediately? Do. And it was making myself miserable because I was always finishing with stuff still left over. So eventually I started saying, okay, how can I have fun with this? How can I enjoy this? And that meant putting a time for 15 minutes on my calendar every day at the end of the day, 15 minutes that says, knock out 5 to-dos or knock out 3 to-dos, depending on the amount of time that each of them took. Sometimes it was knock out 1 to-do, but this, I have to do my whole to-do list or none of it, was really hurting me. So I just started knocking them out one by one. I don't have a to-do list anymore. It is gone. It was done. I can't believe I said that. It was done. My to-do list was done. Now, however, to round this out, now to close out, now to if any like to-do list items come up, what I'll do is I will schedule them into my calendar. So example, if it's like, okay, email, email client and ask for blah, 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 blah. I put that in my calendar. I do not have a to-do list because it will never get done. But stuff on my calendar does. Does this make sense? Tell me in the chat, yes or no. You guys rock. Thank you. Yes, beautiful. Thank you, Teresa. Alrighty, friends. Let's do a quick recap. And then I think we're going to definitely have time for questions. Perfect. So quick recap. Number 1, find your prime hours for the most focus heavy tasks. So many of you have your prime hours done. By the way, I'm going to take this a step further since we have time to do so. If you have, who here has heard of the 80-20 principle? Let me know either by showing hands or chat. Who's heard of the 80-20 principle? I have. Beautiful. Yes. Your 20% tasks go in your prime hours. Your 80% tasks don't. So many of us are trying to shove those 80% tasks. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Quick Reader's Digest version. If you have 100 tasks that need to be accomplished for a goal, on average, 80 of those tasks or 80% of those tasks will not move you forward. Or if they do, they move you forward like, they're so small, but they're normally extremely comfortable. For me, going back to that podcasting example, posting on social media and trying to gather my following was not a task that was moving me forward like this. It was one that was like, and normally it wouldn't even move me forward at all. But I was filling my time because there were 80 of them. There were so many different things to do. But if there's 80 tasks that don't really move you forward, then there's 20 tasks that launch you forward. The issue, however, is that those 20 tasks are normally things that are wildly out of our comfort zone. They're normally things that require us to put our face out there, to put ourselves on the line, to risk failure, to risk fear of rejection, all these different things. But they are the things that launch you. So going back to the podcast example, starting to reach out to podcasts. By the way, these were podcasts that I was shocked they even emailed me back. Again, these across all platforms, it was coming up on like 5-6 million downloads. Some of those were 4 million downloads. So they were really taking the brunt of it. So putting myself out there. What is the name of your podcast? My podcast is named the Life Coach Baker Podcast. And I can put a link in the show notes in a second. In the show notes, I can put a link. I went to podcasting mode. I can put a link in the chat in a second. But when you think about your 80% tasks, those tasks that move you forward ever so slightly, I have a rule about those. Delete them. And that means delete them off your schedule, delete them off your to-do list entirely, or delete them off your day, or delete them off your week. Maybe it's not a 20% task right now, but maybe in 2 weeks it will be. So move it to the week that it will be. So first off, delete it. Second, automate it. A totally non-business example. I hate vacuuming. So it makes me so bored. I can't stand it. My fiance can't stand it. And we were like, well, we can, oh, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate it. We can either just live in filth and live in this dust heap, or we can delegate this out. So we bought a Roomba. Its name is Roscoe. I love it. It is my favorite gadget I own because I don't have to do anything. For me, that vacuuming was an 80% task because I hated doing it. But it was something that I did want to have done because I like my home clean. So we we delegated that out. So delete, delegate, automate is the last one. I kind of mixed those last two up. Delete, delegate, automate. That is my rule with 80% tasks. I actually have I'm really getting into this. I apologize, guys. I have a standing meeting with myself every Monday morning for 5 minutes to look through my week and make sure everything on my week is a 20% task. And if it's not, I move it, I delegate it, or I automate it. By the way, I don't have a big team. I have a podcast editor and a financial team. I don't even have a VA, and I still can find ways to delegate it or automate it or delete these things. So again, finding your prime hours, your 20% tasks go in these prime hours. Number 2, stop being a computer, drop the multitasking. Please put things on do not disturb. That's like my beg. If you guys are wanting to do more research or more of a deep dive into this, read the book. Oh my God, Limitless by Jim Quick is the book. Limitless by Jim Quick. It changed my life when it came to the multitasking. It was insane. And last but not least, leaning into the 85%, not the 100. Whew, I need a sip of water. I feel like I just ran a marathon. You guys are awesome. Okay. Ooh, there we go. So what's next? If any of this resonated with you guys, I want to offer you a free gift. because I love helping other entrepreneurs, big, small, just starting, or haven't even started yet. I don't care. I have this QR code down at the bottom. If you want to sign up for a free 30-minute call with me, I would love to hop on. By the way, these are no strings attached calls. These are not sales calls where I spend these 30 minutes just hearing about your problems and being like, well, if you join my coaching program, I can totally help. No, we do actual coaching on these calls. It is always my goal for you to leave these calls not only feeling clearer on your goals, but knowing that your roadblocks, whether it's that trying to be the best, being consistently torn in a million different directions, or that mindset block of I'm not enough, I need to be the busiest, yada, 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 you will get actual coaching from me. Not a sales call, all that jazz. I think I even have, oh, there it is, the URL. I can drop it in the chat also. Boom. So again, if any of this resonated with you, no strings attached call. I would love to offer that to you all because it's deeply, deeply important to me to help you all with this stuff. So my voice just went away. Q&A. Let's do it. Who's got questions? It sounded like Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. Like, who's got questions? You can drop them in the chat or go off. Go for it, Hannah.
I'll kick us off because I have a personal one. When you talked about in the category of like distractions or to-do lists is what it was.
Yes.
I get like this buzz off of to-do lists and, you're like doing things, you're crossing them off and it like feeds this energy. So how do you get that same kind of energy and buzz without to-do lists? Do you have any advice for that?
I've never been asked this question and I love it. Yes, I do. One of the things I would originally ask is that buzz, those quick hits, that's the neurotransmitter that's being released is dopamine. So is it that quick hit of like, ooh, good job, me. Ooh, nice. But actually it's the next thing, or it's the da-da-da-da. If it's from there, I would argue that something else needs to be in place. However, if it's like, I actually get really good energy, I feel so motivated, I feel amazing about myself when I cross things off my to-do list, then I would say, don't fix what's not broken. I wouldn't change a single thing. For me, the second I started going to my to-do list, it was a slippery slope into how many things can I get done? Da, 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 da. And that was just not a healthy pattern for me. So the way to answer your question, the way I get those dopamine hits is, so at the end of the day, my fiance and I have a ritual called appreciations. So at the end of the night, we say 5 things that we're grateful for from the day, every single time. It is not from weeks ago, it is from the day. And one thing we did accomplish. So my way of getting that like hit is, oh, man, I did accomplish that thing that day. Good job, me. Like, and hearing his also is a really good way for us to get that hit without the stress that a to-do list can induce. Does that make sense?
For sure. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
By the way, I highly recommend gratitude practice for everybody. Everybody, please. Val says, I know part of my challenge is having too many ideas and projects. Ah, yes. And then I get off task. Any suggestions? Yes, I do. I want you to imagine, Val, that you are in a field, and in this field are 40 cats, and these cats are on some like hyperactive, like hulked out catnip, and they're just running around like crazy. And your one mission in life is to herd all 40 of those cats. Now we, as one person, Val, cannot go out into said field arms outstretched and just scoop up these cats and like put them somewhere nice, right? If we do that, we're probably going to get scratched, maybe hissed at, probably peed on if we're being honest as well. So we can't go out into the field and herd 40 cats. We also cannot let that shiny object syndrome try to get us where we feel like we have so many different things that we want to do. Because here's what happens. If I have, going back to the 40 goals example, if I have 40 Nicoles lined up, each of them have a different goal, we're on the starting line, line 0. And our goal is to get to the finish line 100 paces away. But the issue is that all of us are linked arms. We are glued together. None of us can take more than 2 steps away from each other. So me as Nicole number 15 goes one step ahead. Nicole 25 goes one step ahead. Nicole number 2 goes one step ahead. How long is it going to take us to get to 100 paces to that finish line? Let me know in the chat. How long? You don't have to do the actual math. You can just tell me. Oh my God, I'm back in algebra. Oh my God. How long? It's very long or forever. Absolutely. And you hit it on the last part. Never, because we don't have that kind of patience anymore. What's going to happen is we take, maybe we're 10 steps in and our brain says, you're not doing enough. Do you see Linda over there on Instagram? She's killing it. You're so behind. We're going to give ourselves the mental beatdown of a century, and our brain feeds off of growth. And when we're taking those little steps here and there, we don't see that growth. So my advice to you, Val, is looking at all of your ideas, looking at all of your goals and saying, okay, what's one or maybe two that I want to focus on right now? I said that very specifically, right now, not forever, just right now. You can do all 40 or 39 later down the line, but right now, try to do all 40 at this. I'm also making up this number for you. I don't know if it's 40, but if we try to do all 40 at the same time, we're just going to keep running into the same self-sabotaging pattern. So doing one at a time. A really good book for you, Val, is Essentialism by Greg McGowan. Yes. Essentialism by Greg McGowan. That is going to hit it on the head with this. So I hope that helps. Thank you. Linda, I teach high school. I see it in the background. Absolutely. In business math called How to Be a Success. Where was that class when I was in high school? That's so cool. What advice do you have for the younger high-tech generation to focus on oh God. Linda, this is really the question that I'm not going to lie to you. I'm actually deep in research right now around this question, and I phrase it a little differently, but it is basically, what is the line between being that high achiever, between being someone who is so, gunning for growth, gunning for the next level, and being in a place of self-loathing or perfectionism? Because so often I see those high achievers in this just absolute beat down on themselves. Now, the antithesis of that is, how do we, balance the fine line of self-acceptance without falling into complacency? And these questions are plaguing my brain. And the answer that I found in research is achievement, productivity without self-love and acceptance doesn't mean anything. Having that self-love, having that acceptance is not an easy task. It is probably like the capstone of life is what it feels like. Says a 29-year-old, but you know what I mean. When I found that, wow, I really love myself. Wow, I really enjoy the person I am, flaws and everything. When I started really leaning into that, high achiever productivity just happened naturally. So this is probably a lot more heady than you're wanting. This is very philosophical, but it's something that is really, really heavy on my mind recently. And especially for the new generation where self-acceptance is very low on the totem pole, unfortunately. I can't think of anything more needed in today's society and in generations. So again, very philosophical answer, but I hope that helped. Good. Any other questions? Did I miss one? Make sure. Nice. Any other questions?
I know a question we get often from entrepreneurs is around the idea of not knowing where to start and thinking about what's your 20%. Do you have any tips or techniques for identifying what that 20% is for you?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. So when you're first starting a business, normally the 20% is, how do I get my first sale? Or how do I get my first client? Or how do I yada, yada, yada. And so many people use that first time in the beginning parts of business as, well, I need to create a website. That's amazing. And I need to have a name. That's perfect. And I need to da 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 da. They do all the 80% comfort zone tasks because it's way easier to work on a website, to create a name, to make a business plan, to do all the do-do-do-do-do's, because it's behind the scenes. You don't have to put yourself out there. You're not, you know, in the risk of getting rejection. So the 20% task for business owners is normally getting your first sale. Now, if it's a business where, like, you know, you definitely need accreditation, you need that LLC, you need contracts or stuff like that, you know, it kind of depends. For me, I was in a position where I grew up in this industry. I had a lot of the knowledge. I went and got certified in neurolinguistic programming, and then I stalled. And then I just stopped for like 6 months because I was like, well, I need a website. I need an Instagram. I need a blah, 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 blah. And that cost me so much time, when in reality, all I needed to do was just send a DM that said, hey, my name's Nicole. I see that you're struggling with this. I'd love to offer you a free call where we can talk about that. And when I started doing that strategy, I'd send out, I think, like 3 to 5 a day, something like that. And only on weekdays. I take weekends off, and that is very strict for me. So 3 to 5 a day every week. I filled out my program, and my program is normally like 10 to 12 people in like 3 months. I went full time, and that was wild to me. So the 20% is the thing that you probably know you should, quote unquote, or the thing that you know you want to do, or the thing that, like, you're in the shower and you're like, oh my God, that'd be a great idea. But fear creeps in. That is your 20% task normally. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. I think we got it. I think we nailed it.
Well, I know we have a few more minutes, and so if anyone else has questions, feel free to jump in. But I'd also love to hear a little bit more for people who aren't familiar with a life coach, what that would look like if that was something they were interested in for their business.
Absolutely. So I can only speak from my experience as coach. A lot of coaches have different tactics and approaches. However, the way that I approach coaching, and I tend to do a mix of life and business coaching because a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs, but I always approach coaching from 3 pillars. And the first pillar is really the one that everyone comes to me wanting, and that is strategy. They want to know how to take Fridays off. They want to know what to do. They want to know how to find the 20%. They want to know how to double their business income. They want to and how to sail off into the sunset being happy guru pants. However, there's 2 other pillars. If your mindset is in a place where it is low energy, if you're talking negatively to yourself regularly, if you're constantly looking at the things you have not accomplished versus the things that you have, the strategy's not going to go very well. Then add pillar number 3, which is belief systems. So strategy, mindset, belief systems. If your belief systems are saying, I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough, I will never be enough, no one loves my business, no one's going to buy from me, I don't deserve to make X amount of money, yada, 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 yada. If we have a mindset and belief system that's saying that over and over again in our brain, I can give you the best strategy in the world. And I'm very fortunate to have learned from some of the top people in the personal development world since I was literally 1. I could give you that strategy and you would self-sabotage yourself into the ground. So what I do in my coaching is I always make sure that we start with mindset. If your habits, if your energy is not matching the person you want to be, we cannot make that person happen. So we always make sure that that is in alignment. Then we go into belief systems. Belief systems are the blueprint of how we create our lives every time. For the longest time, I was a waitress actually for about 15 years. I'm 29, do the math. That's a lot of my life. And I realized, I was like, I'm so afraid to go get a coaching certification. I'm afraid to go do all that because who on earth is going to learn from a 24-year-old life coach who's a bartender? And that story, that belief I had in my head screwed me over for so long until I started rewriting that. that was when, oh my God, that was when everything changed. So working on that mindset, working on those belief systems so they empower you, so they're aligned with who you're wanting to become, and then strategy just happens. So in my calls, I do like 1 hour coaching calls with my clients every other week, depending on the package that they do with me. But in those calls, we always make sure those 3 pillars are at the core of what we believe, or the core of what we work on. So coaching is not for the faint of heart, if I'm being honest. It is something for people who are ready to make actual real-time change. And when you are in that state of like, I am deciding to make a change in my life, that is when I see coaching just take off and fly. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for kind of that overview and a little glimpse of what that looks like. And thank you so much for this content today. I know it's been really helpful. I hope it's been helpful for all of you joining us. And just a reminder, the recording will be coming to you later this week. And if you do need more support for your business, if maybe you need some help crafting those marketing messages you're going to send out when you're getting out of your comfort zone, whatever that might look like for you, we have business advisors that would love to work with you for free. So we hope that you'll take advantage of that. And I did put the link to learn more about Nicole and her business as well in the chat. Feel free to check that out. And yeah, we just thank you all for being here. And thank you so much, Nicole, for all the information today.
You guys are amazing. I love your mission. I love what you guys do. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, you all have a great rest of your afternoon.